Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to Gig. I'm your host, Mike Redman. This is episode 2 of our 4-part series on music for video games. In this conversation, I'm speaking with Alec and Jeff about the financial side of scoring for games, how often composers get paid, and how to estimate how much music a game actually needs. So as always, let's jump right in. How much does budget play into, creating music for a game?
Money is always a factor in anything you do. If you get out of bed in the morning, at some point, money becomes a factor.
How much is my Starbucks coffee? Yeah.
So, we've worked on, I've scored and Alec has worked on games from these so-called AAA, the big console games, the Call of Duties and the Devil May Cries and the Dooms and these big games that, people spend $60 on and play for weeks on end. That's just one small sliver of the game world.
Yeah.
It's the most visible, but it's actually not by far not the most popular. Because, below the AAA games and the mid-budget, what they call AA games, there are these MMOs, these massive multiplayer games that are mostly played on PCs, from the Steam store, which is the kind of the marketplace for independent and not independent games, down to the little mobile games, the little puzzles and match 3 in a row games. And so the fact is just like in film and TV, where you have big blockbusters down to little, micro budget indie documentaries, the game world has exactly the same thing. And the budgets vary exactly the way you'd think. Bigger games are going to pay have higher budgets. So they want a live orchestra. They want live musicians. They want in many cases, they want well-known artists. They want bands and vocalists. And we haven't even talked about licensing, because there are games like Fortnite and Roblox who license major artists to have playing inside those games. But from our perspective, as people who create and produce, we work within any imaginable budget. It's all going to be
I was just going to ask you, so I get that. I mean, it's kind of like, me making my home movie on my iPhone to Steven Spielberg. But how do you go about budgeting, you guys, your your company? How do you go about budgeting for a specific game? If I was to come to you and say, I've got this game, I want to do da-da-da-da-da, it's going to be like this, and I show you a couple screens and I tell you about how long the gameplay is, et cetera, et cetera. How do you budget for something like that?
So I think this would be true of anybody who works in media. Having done it for many years, we know what our expenses are. Sure. If we need to hire an orchestra and a studio and engineers to record, so do we need vocalists? Do we need soloists? Do we need one composer? Do we need 4 composers? Are we being asked to do sound design? Are we being asked to put the music into that middleware engine? So we have there's all these spokes to the wheel, and a video game company will say, hey, we have this game. We want you to work on it. How much would it cost to do this? And we come back with a budget based on kind of just building out a spreadsheet of what our costs will be. And then on the creative side, video games have traditionally and are primarily paid by the minute of music. So what we do is we quote a fee of X dollars per minute of music, with an understanding. Usually when the game companies come to us, they'll say, we need you to do 20 minutes. We need you to do 60 minutes. Sometimes they don't even know, but often they actually do know what they are gonna need. So we give some flexibility if it's a huge project. We'll bring the fee per minute down to make it more affordable if it's a problem. But it's like having an agent. We know the value. It's based on the size of the game. It's based on the stature of the composer, because we can offer, higher tier, lower tiered composers. I mean, I think we're all kind of A tier here, but
there you go.
Some people work on some games, some people work on other games, although that's more of a style thing. But the fact is we come to them, we'll say it's X per minute of composition, and then it's on top of that, it would cost X for us to hire the orchestrator, hire the orchestra, book the studio, book the engineer, get it, have Alec mix it, stem it, deliver it, and so it covers a broad range. But composers, it's a wide range of anywhere from a few $100 a minute to several $1,000s per minute.
That's great. Thank you for that. That's, I mean, it is interesting when you start talking it through. It just, sounds like most media to me. The technical part of composing and how it all works together, and the interactive part is very, very unique.
Yeah.
But as far as, how much money is this going to cost? I did that for most of my career too, and I had I will tell you one really funny story, because I don't care anymore. But I did my first piece of music for Disney, and I was doing it with an agency, and the agency was also kind of my mentor. And he asked me what it was going to cost to do this, and I said, I'll just tell you. I'll just say it's $5,000 for this thing. This is a long time ago. And he goes, "No, that's not going to work, Mike." And I said, "Well, it's got real musicians in. I've got to, I've got to hire these people, et cetera, et cetera." He says, No, that's not the problem. It is way too low. Which you don't hear anymore, by the way. I know that. And I said, "What do you mean it's way too low?" And he goes, they're gonna think your music's crap. They're used to paying big bucks." So he said, I think it's worth at least $21,000. So that's what we went, and that became that became
my
rate.
Oddly specific number, but good.
Yeah. Well, the oddly specific is why it worked, I think. But that became my rate to do that. And I also owned a post facility in a film company, and so budgeting these things, it can be real crazy. Have you guys ever budgeted one that you got halfway through and you went, we really under budgeted what's going to take to do this?
Yeah, it's happened once or twice. Not too much. We try to go in assuming. Assume the worst, hope for the best, expect the worst.
We have a good pad on there. Okay.
So we have margins if things get a little out of hand. What happens more often, frankly, is a video game developer will say, "Well, here's what we want you to do," and we start doing it, and then they'll go, "Oh, well, that's great. Now we want to add, more musicians, and we want to add more minutes of music, and we want to have, all of these other parameters or." Now we would like a singer with 100,000 TikTok followers. And so we'll go back and say, yeah, we can do all of that. Now, I should say, if you are an independent composer without this experience or skill set, then you have to be very gentle and very careful. I think we function. We know what different games pay for music. We know what specific developers. I mean, we know that if you're working for a Japanese video game company, the rates are somewhat different from working for Chinese or other Asian companies. It's different working with European or North American companies. So that's why we know there's a range, and we also know that a certain scope of work, how challenging it is. So we have a decent sense of how many man hours, if you will, person hours that it would take to get through everything. And so we work knowing what the industry standards are. We try to get the most we can for our services. We feel we bring like any really talented composer, if you bring something of value, you charge for it.
You're bringing a lot of experience to. You're going to save them a lot of headaches by knowing what you're doing. Hey, Alec, I want to jump back to you for a minute. So really not into the process so much, but I think that Jeff mentioned it. When you are budgeting for something like this, in my company, I used to go to every division head or whatever. Is that what happens with you? Does Jeff come to you and say, "Hey, we're going to be doing this thing here, and it's going," and then you have to sit down and create your budget for what it may be, and then give it to him? Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's something that I've been kind of working through recently, more recent years as I kind of have been taking on more of a project manager role in the company. Yeah, they don't really teach budgeting too much in music school, so it's been
Yeah.
a great learning experience for sure. But yeah, that's essentially how it works. And luckily, I mean, as Jeff kind of pointed out earlier too, is that I mean, with our experience and what I've seen, I kind of am familiar with rates. So yes, we'll be given a budget, or Jeff will say, "Hey, we have this amount of money from this client or whatnot. Can you make this work for this song?" And yeah, that's essentially how it works. And I'm, you know, just being aware of the overall rates for soloists or vocalists, and being able to take this sum of money and understand how it can be divvied up between everybody.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And when it comes to post-production, Alec, as our main mixer, we do have a pretty good sense of time, because that time is a major factor. You don't get paid for your time as a composer, but you very much get paid for your time as, say, an engineer, or editor or producer. So, we'll be working on a project and we'll go, well, this is going to take half a day of time to mix, or this is going to take 4 days of time to mix. You have to be very thoughtful about that. And, Alec knows his pace, just like every engineer that I've worked with, that we've worked with, has a sense of, yes, this will take me, I can mix 5 minutes a day. I can mix 12 minutes a day, whatever it is. So we do that. Every composer has to collaborate with orchestrators and musicians and contractors and engineers. So all along the way, it's like, how much is it going to cost for you to orchestrate this? How much is it going to cost for copying? How much is it going to cost to have a recording studio for 40 musicians for a full day lockout? So with all of those factors, we kind of, you get into it. And if you're a young composer, if you're just getting started, ask somebody who's done it a few times.
That's what I was going to get into.
How do you do it?
That's
we
what
do
I
it our
wanted to
way,
ask
other
you.
people do it their way.
I wanted to ask you that because, you and I and Alec and lots of people like this, and especially in your career, you've done it enough. And it's like, I know how long it's going to take me to do that. You already do that. So when you're budgeting, it's all in your head already. You already know where you're going to end up before you actually do all the numbers, sort of. So, but do you have some advice or some guidelines for somebody that's kind of new at this, if they don't have somebody to ask right away, that might help them a little bit when some guys, some company calls them and says, "We really love your music. We'd like you to do something." How they may start this so that they don't mess it up so bad that, they'll go out of business.
First of all, am I allowed to plug my book?
You can plug anything. Yes, because I'd like you to plug your book, because I really think where I'm going to be promoting this is to the people that are gamers and people that want to be.
Let me just say that I wrote a book about film and TV scoring a while back, and I've had to update it occasionally. But in 2022, so just a couple of years ago, I rewrote the book virtually from the ground up to include all of these things about video game scoring. So I will plug the world. And then the other thing I would say that's really important is, and Alec can certainly speak to this, I can speak to this, how valuable having some form of mentorship is.
Mm.
You know, if I hadn't been a ghostwriter as a fly on the wall at dozens and dozens of meetings between, you know, directors and producers and later audio directors and video games, if I hadn't been a fly on the wall to watch things go badly or go well, and to see to you know, get it, I couldn't have picked it up and done it myself. So I'm very lucky to had mentors both creatively and logistically walk me through the steps. But I mean, YouTube has buckets of people putting up great tutorials on video game scoring. I've watched a few. Some of them are better than others, unfortunately. But I'd say between reading, you know, I would like to think a pretty authoritative, accurate insider's view, or finding things online. But I don't know that anything ever takes the place of having somebody in your life who kind of shows you the ropes and said, "Here, don't do it like that. Do it like this."
That's great. I mean, to that point, how hard is it to find somebody to, you know, apprentice under, or just help, you know, and hang out with somebody so that you can actually learn firsthand? I mean, there are. I'm very good friends with the guys that run Full Sail, for example.
Yeah,
they have a huge gaming department. They have a coliseum. They have everything. But for the guys that can't spend $100,000 to do that are very talented writers, right? What advice might you give them to try to find somebody?
Well, you know, I mean, I've been super lucky that I've had over the years dozens and dozens of interns, some of whom became assistants, and some of those assistants who became colleagues, you know, like we have today. And but you know, I've had students from, you know, the Berkeley College and Columbia College in Chicago, and USC and UCLA and Cal State Northridge, which we're pretty close to. So, you know, I personally have, you know, mentored just tons of people. Schools have internship placement offices in some cases. That's how Alec and I connected. It's how I've connected with, God, to be honest with you, the majority of people have come to work with me. And then Imperia has had interns as well who work, you know, for the community. A couple of them came from San Francisco Conservatory, and Hélène Choyer, this astonishing French musician, now works here full time. She runs our record label, but she also does music production for us. You know, so we met her, and we met another young woman. Both came through the same, because they have a film scoring, they have a video game scoring program in San Francisco. So some colleges, universities, schools offer help. So I'm on a list with a couple of places, and we take on when we can. You know, I've certainly, you know, people have emailed us as a team because we have some visibility in the video game community, saying, "Hey, you know, if you need anything, let me know." And I continue to have people from time to time say, "Hey, you know, I'm coming to LA, or I live in LA." Proximity is very helpful.
Big deal.
We've only had like one or two people intern. Well, actually, we've never had anybody intern remotely. We have many people outside the city, where Alec and Cody and I are. We have plenty of people who do work for us, writing or producing. Or we have a guy who builds a database and helps with our website. But if you're in college, I think you need to find a place where you'll find some composers and offer to just, you know, it's so cliche to say this, you know, the whole, you know, go to a studio and make coffee.
I did that at Criteria years ago. So,
you know, I've done my share. We all have. And I think, I want to say it's invaluable. I think there's been a tendency with college students in the last few years to feel undervalued if they're doing internships that don't involve a financial transaction.
Sure.
I've been sort of taken to task by a few college students who wonder why somebody would want to be, in a studio and not do it for an hourly wage. But the fact is, if somebody put me, if somebody sent me to NASA, Rocket Center, and I had to do it, it might take me a year to actually be of any use or value.
Sure.
So while if what we ask somebody to do is not educational, we pay them. But if we feel it's educational and getting your foot in the door and having the basic understanding of how we do what we do, then
well, you're basically
we're still
paying for your education. I mean, that's the way I always looked at it.
It's an exchange of services and not goods.
Yeah, and it's hard.
Alec, what do you think about that?
Yeah,
I mean, or as far as internships go, I don't think it's as hard as it may seem to get. There is the college route, which I did, and that's probably the easiest one because they generally will help you out with that. But if you're not, I would say, I mean, with social media nowadays, just get involved in the community. And social media makes it very easy. Just put yourself out there and comment, participate in blog posts or whatever, and find out, where sometimes people have meetups. And if you're interested in game composing, there's so many conventions, conferences. Go to those, meet people. You just have to. That's part of the gig as well, is just being a people person and going out there and making your presence known, and you'll find somebody, especially if you go to these various conferences, like Game SoundCon or GDC and whatnot. There's tons of composers walking around, and everybody's friendly, and just go say hi and spark up a conversation, and you can work in, hey, like, if you need some help, I'm around. I'd love to help you out if you need it.
There's there are a couple of good Facebook groups for video game composers, but it's worth mentioning there's one organization that is probably the most supportive organization for young composers to learn, and it's the Game Audio Network Guild, GANG, or Gang.
Never heard of it. Okay.
And I'm a member of Gang. Alec is a member of Gang. Most of our friends are members. They put on seminars, webinars. They offer a lot. They have an awards that they do every year, the Gang Awards, which has become a sort of a go-to event every winter in San Francisco. And they are a terrific resource, and it is a network. It is a place where composers can meet other composers, virtually or sometimes in person.
That's cool.